Have you ever felt like you don't quite belong in this world? Like there's something ancient stirring deep within your soul, a whisper you can't quite hear but somehow recognize? If you were born between 1955 and 1975, what I'm about to share with you isn't just another spiritual message. It's a key to understanding why your life has felt different, heavier, and yet somehow more purposeful than you ever imagined. Edgar Cayce, one of the most profound spiritual teachers of modern times, spoke about souls who incarnate during pivotal moments in human history. These aren't ordinary lifetimes, these are missions, and if you're watching this right now, there's a reason you were drawn here. Something inside you remembers, even if your conscious mind has forgotten. Stay with me until the end, because what you're about to discover might finally explain those inexplicable feelings you've carried your entire life. But before we begin, please hit the like button and let me know where in the world you're watching from today. It's always fascinating seeing who's joining us from around the world. And if you haven't already, make sure to hit that subscribe button and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss any of our future videos. Think about your childhood for a moment. Did you ever feel like you could sense things others couldn't? Did the world seem somehow smaller than the vastness you felt inside? Many people born in this 20-year window describe the same phenomenon, a feeling of carrying something too big for their bodies, too ancient for their age. You weren't imagining it. This generation arrived during one of the most transformative periods in human consciousness, positioned perfectly between the rigid structures of the past and the awakening energies of the future. Has this ever happened to you? You walk into a room and immediately feel the weight of unspoken emotions. You look into someone's eyes and sense their pain before they speak a word. You wake up, exhausted, as if you've been working all night in dimensions you can't quite remember. These aren't coincidences or signs of weakness. They're breadcrumbs leading you back to the truth of who you really are and why you're here. The souls who incarnated between 1955 and 1975 didn't come to live ordinary lives. They came as bridges, as healers, as silent warriors, tasked with absorbing the collective trauma of generations past, while preparing the ground for those who would come after. You might have spent years feeling misunderstood, different, too sensitive for this harsh world. But what if I told you that your sensitivity wasn't a flaw? It was your assignment. Edgar Cayce revealed that certain souls volunteer for the most challenging missions, incarnating during times of great transition to anchor new frequencies of consciousness on Earth. These souls carry what he called old soul wisdom, a deep knowing that transcends this single lifetime. And right now, as you're reading these words, something within you is beginning to stir, beginning to remember what you agreed to before you were born. What happens next in this journey might challenge everything you thought you knew about yourself, but it will also set you free. Let me tell you something that might shake you to your core. The pain you've been carrying all these years, the heaviness in your chest that you can't quite explain, the grief that surfaces without warning, it's not entirely yours. You inherited it. Like an invisible legacy passed down through bloodlines and collective consciousness. Your soul absorbed the vibrational imprint of wars your body never fought, dictatorships your eyes never witnessed, and losses your heart never directly experienced. Your generation became a silent sponge, soaking up the unresolved trauma of those who came before, and this wasn't an accident. Edgar Cayce understood this profound truth. Sensitive souls suffer first so that others don't have to suffer later. You were chosen to bear this weight not as punishment, but as transformation. Your pain has always had a purpose, even when it felt meaningless. Now I want to go even deeper into this hidden truth, because understanding your childhood is crucial to understanding your mission. Think back to those early years. Perhaps your home was filled with emotional absences. parents who were physically present but spiritually distant. Maybe you grew up under rigid rules, surrounded by confusion, never quite feeling the warmth you desperately needed. Here's what most people don't realize. This wasn't the universe being cruel to you. It was silent training. Every moment of loneliness, every instance where you had to comfort yourself, every night you cried without anyone hearing, these were lessons in self-reliance that would later become your greatest strength. You were being prepared to guide others through darkness because you first learned to navigate it yourself, without crutches, without safety nets, with nothing but the light that flickered inside your own soul. If you haven't already, make sure you subscribe to the channel because we're diving deep into these spiritual truths on a regular basis. This isn't surface-level content. This is real soul work. And if you're on this path, you'll want to stay connected with us. This is why you matured so much faster than everyone around you. While other children were playing without care, you were already carrying adult burdens, already sensing the undercurrents of family pain, already understanding things that shouldn't have been your responsibility. You learned to silence your emotions because expressing them felt dangerous. You stored your questions deep inside because no one seemed capable of answering them. You endured situations that would have broken others, and you did it without exploding, without shattering completely. Behind the scenes of your life, there was an invisible hand guiding you, shaping you, forging you in the fires of early adversity. Many people looked at you and saw nothing unusual, saw no pain, because you became a master at hiding your inner world. But the spirits, the guides, the higher forces, they never stopped watching over you. They witnessed every tear, acknowledged every silent struggle, and they knew that what seemed like abandonment was actually preparation for something far greater. The impact of these early years ripples through your entire existence. The decisions you make today, the way you show up for others, your capacity to hold space for someone else's pain, all of it traces back to those formative moments when you learned that survival meant developing an inner fortress. Your mindset was shaped not by ease, but by necessity. And now, as you stand at this point in your journey, you're beginning to see that every hardship was a deliberate part of your soul's curriculum. Write in the comments, "I understand now," if this resonates with something deep inside you, because what comes next will reveal even more about the revelations waiting to unfold in your story. There's something you've done since childhood that you probably never told anyone about. You've looked up at the sky, at the stars, at the clouds drifting by, and felt something looking back, not with eyes, but with presence, a warmth, a recognition, a sense that you were being watched over by something vast and loving. Most people would dismiss this as imagination or delusion, but here's the hidden truth. It wasn't either of those things. It was memory. Your soul remembers a time before this incarnation, before this dense physical world, when you existed on more subtle planes where connection with your guides was as natural as breathing. Communication was direct, alive, constant. When you arrived here, in this heavy three-dimensional reality, you experienced something profound, a kind of invisible mourning for that lost connection. The loneliness you felt your entire life isn't just about lacking human companionship. It's spiritual homesickness for a realm where you were never truly alone, where guidance flowed freely, where you understood your purpose without question. This reveals something crucial about your role here. Your soul didn't incarnate during a random period of human history. You were strategically placed during one of the most significant planetary transitions humanity has ever experienced. Think about what was happening between 1955 and 1975. The world was caught between two realities: the old guard clinging desperately to rigid structures, authoritarian mindsets, and fear-based control, while simultaneously the seeds of a new consciousness were being planted. The civil rights movement, the awakening of spiritual seekers, the questioning of authority, the birth of environmental awareness, all of this was erupting during the exact years you entered this world. You are part of what Edgar Cayce called the bridge generation. And here's what nobody tells you about being a bridge. You get walked on. You get ignored. People cross over you without acknowledgement, without gratitude, often without even noticing you're there holding the space between two worlds. You felt forgotten, undervalued, like your contributions don't matter. But the brutal truth is that bridges are the most essential structure in any landscape. Without you, there would be no crossing, no transformation, no journey from where humanity was to where it needs to go. The impact of being this bridge has shaped every decision you've ever made, even the ones that seemed self-sabotaging at the time. You often felt displaced in your own life, like you didn't quite fit anywhere. You were too sensitive for the practical world, but too grounded for the purely spiritual seekers. You saw things others didn't see, felt energies others dismissed, had dreams that carried messages nobody wanted to hear. So you learned to hide your perceptions. You stopped sharing your intuitions because people looked at you strangely when you did. You buried your visions because the world labeled you as weird, overly imaginative, or mentally unstable. Behind the scenes of your public persona, you were carrying profound awareness that you couldn't express, navigating realities that others denied existed. Yet despite all the rejection, despite all the times you questioned your own sanity, you persisted. Something deep inside whispered that it wasn't time yet, that there would come a moment when your gifts would no longer need to hide, when the world would finally be ready to see what you've always seen. Put down "I've always known" in the comments if you've spent your life feeling like you were waiting for permission to fully be yourself. Because the revelations about why you've had to wait are about to become crystal clear. The most profound revelation I can share with you today is this. Before you were born, before you took your first breath in this lifetime, your soul made a decision. In the realm beyond the physical, in the presence of guides and spiritual counsels that Edgar Cayce spoke about so often, you were shown what this life would entail. You saw the challenges, the heartbreak, the moments of crushing loneliness. You witnessed in advance the silent tears you would cry, the times you would feel misunderstood, the pain of watching the world hurt those who feel too deeply. And knowing all of this, seeing the full scope of what you were about to endure, you said yes. This wasn't ignorance or naivety. This was courage of the highest order. You accepted this mission because you understood something that most people forget the moment they incarnate. Your presence alone would change destinies, not through fame or recognition, not through building empires or achieving what society calls success, but simply by existing, by holding a frequency of light in a world that desperately needed it. Here's where most people get confused about their purpose. We've been conditioned to believe that missions are these grand, spotlight-drenched endeavors. We think transformation happens on stages, in viral moments, through massive impact that everyone can measure and applaud. But the hidden truth behind your journey is that your mission lives in the details. It's in the word you spoke to someone at exactly the moment they were contemplating giving up. It's in the hug you offered when you were exhausted yourself, but sensed someone needed human warmth. It's in your silence when someone was speaking, the way you truly listened instead of just waiting for your turn to talk. It's in the look you gave across a crowded room that told another soul they weren't alone. These moments don't make headlines. They don't accumulate followers. They happen in the unseen spaces between heartbeats, in the quiet decisions to show up with compassion when you could have chosen indifference. This is where real change occurs, in the microscopic acts of love that ripple through dimensions you can't even perceive, and there's something else happening that you need to understand. Have you ever wondered why you wake up more exhausted than when you went to sleep? Why some mornings you feel like you've been working all night even though your body was in bed. This isn't insomnia or poor sleep quality. Your soul is an invisible worker. While your physical form rests, your consciousness travels to other planes where you continue your mission. In what's called spirit, projection or astral work, you're assisting souls who are lost, consoling those in transition, guiding energy patterns that affect the collective consciousness. Edgar Cayce documented countless cases of people performing spiritual service during sleep states. And you are one of these workers. Your dreams aren't just random firings of neurons. They're the meeting rooms where real work happens. This is why rest sometimes eludes you, why your body feels heavy even after 8 hours of sleep. The behind-the-scenes reality is that your service doesn't clock out when the sun goes down. Your mindset about success and productivity might tell you that you're not doing enough during your waking hours. But the truth is, you're operating on multiple levels simultaneously, contributing in ways that don't fit into conventional frameworks of achievement. Leave "I'm finally understanding" in the comments if this explains why you've always felt like you're carrying more than what's visible on the surface, because what I'm about to share next will illuminate even more about the specific gifts you've been developing through all of this. There's a pattern that's been running through your family for generations, maybe even centuries. Anger passed down like heirlooms, fear disguised as protection, silence weaponized as control, violence that shapeshifts but never truly disappears. You've felt it, haven't you? The weight of these inherited behaviors pressing down on you, trying to force you into the same tired script that destroyed those who came before you. But here's what makes you different, what makes your journey so critically important. You were specifically called to break these cycles. Edgar Cayce taught that no soul arrives anywhere by accident, and your placement in your particular family line in this specific era was a deliberate choice made by your higher self. You incarnated with one clear directive: to say no, to refuse violence when everyone around you normalized it, to choose courage when fear seemed like the only rational response, to practice generosity when selfishness was modeled as survival. Every decision you've made to act differently, to be different, hasn't just changed your life. It's rewritten the entire trajectory of your lineage, forward and backward through time. But breaking cycles requires something most people don't possess, and this is where your unique design becomes evident. You feel everything. You love with an intensity that frightens people. You cry at commercials, at sunsets, at the thought of someone somewhere hurting. You walk into rooms and immediately sense the emotional temperature, picking up on tensions and joys that others miss entirely. The world has probably told you this is weakness, that you're too sensitive, too emotional, too much. But the hidden truth is that your sensitivity is evolutionary advancement. Your soul was specifically designed to interrupt patterns of pain, and to do that, you needed to feel deeply enough to recognize those patterns in the first place. The spirits and guides who work with awakened souls understand something profound. The most delicate hearts are the first to capture vibrations from higher planes. Your ability to feel isn't a flaw in your design. It's your most sophisticated instrument for navigating both physical and spiritual realities. When you perceive things in the air, sense energy shifts before they manifest, or know something is wrong before evidence appears, you're accessing information from dimensions that most people remain blind to their entire lives. If this message touched something deep inside you, show some love by hitting that like button. It's a simple way to let me know this resonated, and it helps other souls who are searching for these answers find their way here. And your body has been trying to tell you this all along. Think about the illnesses you've experienced, the chronic pain, the mysterious symptoms doctors couldn't explain, the anxiety that seemed to come from nowhere, Behind the scenes of these physical manifestations was your body screaming messages that your conscious mind refused to hear. When you ignored your intuition and stayed in toxic situations, your body created pain to make you pay attention. When you suppressed your truth to keep peace, your throat tightened, your voice weakened. When you carried everyone else's emotional burdens, your shoulders ached, your back gave out. This wasn't punishment. It was communication. Your physical form is a spiritual messenger, translating soul-level distress into symptoms you couldn't ignore. Even during your darkest moments of exhaustion, pain, or overwhelming anxiety, something crucial remained true. Your light never actually went out. It retreated, yes. It withdrew to protect itself, waiting for conditions where it could safely emerge without being attacked or diminished. The impact of understanding this shifts everything about how you view your struggles and your healing journey. Type, "My body was speaking" in the comments if you're now seeing your physical challenges through a completely different lens, because the transformation that happens when you truly listen changes the entire direction of what comes next. Edgar Cayce had this powerful way of describing awakened souls. He said they're like lighthouses, standing firm on rocky shores, beaming light across vast distances without ever needing to move from where they're planted. You've been that lighthouse your entire life without even recognizing it. Think about the conversations you've had where someone later told you that your words arrived at exactly the moment they needed to hear them. Remember the times people sought your presence, not because you offered solutions, but because something about being near you made them feel safer, more grounded, more hopeful. Your intuition has guided people away from destructive decisions they'll never know they almost made. Behind the scenes of their lives, your influence redirected entire trajectories, and most of the time, you never received credit or even acknowledgement. But that's the nature of lighthouse work. The ships that safely navigate past the rocks don't always stop to thank the light that saved them. They simply continue their journey, often unaware of the disaster they avoided. Your impact doesn't require recognition to be real. Every person you've touched carries a piece of your light forward, into their own circles, creating ripples of transformation you'll never personally witness, but that exist nonetheless. There have been moments, though, when your light flickered dangerously close to going out completely. You've stood at the edge of giving up, contemplating what it would feel like to just silence everything forever, to stop feeling, stop caring, stop carrying this impossible weight. In those darkest hours, when every logical decision pointed toward surrender, something pulled you back from that edge. It wasn't willpower, it wasn't even hope. It was something far older and more powerful than this single lifetime. There's a force inside you that Edgar Cayce called ancient faith, and it has nothing to do with religion or doctrine. This is cellular memory of other existences where you also fought for light against overwhelming darkness. Your soul remembers battles you've already won in previous incarnations, challenges you've already overcome when the odds were even worse than they are now. This ancient faith doesn't operate through your conscious mind. It bypasses your doubts, your fears, your rational assessment of impossible situations, and it simply refuses to let you quit. It's the part of you that knows, beyond any shadow of uncertainty, that you've survived worse and that your mission isn't complete yet. And the truth about why you feel so exhausted goes even deeper than we've discussed. You've been in spiritual battles that your waking consciousness doesn't remember. There are mornings you've woken up with unexplainable anguish gripping your chest, times you've felt oppressed by invisible weight, moments you've cried without any rational reason your mind could identify. What's happening behind the scenes during these episodes is that your soul is processing energetic warfare that occurred while you slept. You're not just working on the astral plane helping individual souls. You're also confronting and transforming dark energies, clearing pathways, holding space against forces that most people don't even believe exist. This is exhausting work that doesn't get acknowledged in your daily life because it happens in dimensions your physical eyes can't see. Being a worker of the invisible means your fatigue operates on multiple levels simultaneously, and conventional rest doesn't always restore what these battles deplete. Right, I've been fighting in the comments if you're starting to understand that your exhaustion has never been laziness, but evidence of work happening across multiple realities, because the revelations about your true purpose are about to become even more specific and personal. You know what's remarkable about your journey? While others were cramming for life's tests, desperately trying to learn lessons through trial and error, you seem to already know the answers. Not intellectually, not from books or teachings, but from somewhere deeper. When faced with situations that would break most people, you somehow found patience you didn't know you possessed. When betrayal should have turned you bitter, forgiveness emerged from a place you couldn't explain. When love seemed foolish given how much you'd been hurt, you loved anyway, more deeply than logic would ever recommend. This isn't coincidence or natural talent. Your soul came into this lifetime with the curriculum already memorized. Edgar Cayce spoke extensively about how advanced souls carry forward the wisdom earned through countless previous incarnations, and your ability to navigate the most difficult tests without formal preparation is evidence of this ancient knowledge living inside you. The lessons of love, patience, surrender, and forgiveness aren't things you're learning for the first time. They're things you're remembering, skills you've mastered in other lifetimes that your current consciousness is gradually accessing as you need them. The hidden truth behind your periods of profound solitude reveals another layer of this preparation. There were years, maybe even decades, when you felt utterly alone. Friends drifted away, relationships ended, family misunderstood you, and you found yourself in stretches of isolation that felt like punishment or cosmic abandonment. But what was really happening during those quiet years was the most intensive training of your life. Solitude wasn't rejecting you, it was refining you. In the silence, without the distraction of constant voices and opinions, you learned to hear your own inner guidance with crystal clarity. The withdrawal from the noise of the world forged a strength in you that can't be built any other way. You discovered that you could survive completely on your own, that your connection to something greater than yourself was enough, that external validation wasn't required for your light to shine. Even now, when you're surrounded by people, when your calendar fills up and obligations multiply, your soul still craves those moments of sacred silence. This isn't antisocial behavior or depression, it's wisdom. You understand that depth lives in stillness, that truth speaks in whispers, and that the most important conversations happen in the space between thoughts. This is also why your relationships have looked so different from what society expects. While others were dating for status, for security, for appearances, you were searching for something the surface world doesn't value: soul recognition. You wanted to feel authentic connection, not watch someone perform a version of themselves designed to impress. You needed truth, raw and unfiltered, even when it was uncomfortable. This mindset frustrated you endlessly because the world is full of people still hiding behind carefully constructed masks, terrified of being seen as they actually are. But your refusal to settle for shallow connection also led you to your tribe. These are the rare souls who feel as deeply as you do, who love with their entire being, who don't run when shadow work gets uncomfortable. These are the people who understand that real intimacy requires vulnerability, that transformation happens in the places we're most afraid to look, and that genuine love doesn't fear darkness because it knows light lives on the other side. The impact of finding even one or two of these souls changes everything about how you experience being human. Leave "I found my people" in the comments if you've discovered that quality matters infinitely more than quantity when it comes to the connections that actually sustain your soul, because what I'm about to reveal next explains why these specific people entered your life exactly when they did. There's a particular kind of homesickness you've carried your entire life, and it has nothing to do with any place on this planet. You feel nostalgic for something you can't name, longing for somewhere you don't consciously remember, aching for a state of being that this physical world has never quite provided. People might have told you this is depression or dissatisfaction, but the hidden truth is far more profound. This nostalgia is actually a memory trace from other dimensions where you existed before this incarnation. Edgar Cayce's reading spoke extensively about the soul's journey through various planes of existence, and what you're experiencing is your consciousness remembering realms where love was purer, where peace was absolute, where truth wasn't obscured by ego and fear. That yearning you feel when you look at the stars, that sense of not quite belonging here, that pull towards something indefinable. This is your soul recognizing that Earth is not your original home. And here's what most people don't understand. This longing isn't meant to make you miserable. It's the seed of return. It's your internal compass pointing you back toward the spiritual frequencies you came from, reminding you that this dense physical reality is temporary and that something far more beautiful awaits. Now, I want to go even deeper into the signs that confirm you're operating on these higher frequencies, even while living in human form. Have you noticed how children gravitate toward you without explanation? How animals that are normally skittish or aggressive become calm in your presence? This isn't random. Children and animals haven't yet developed the mental filters that adults use to override their intuitive perception. They see beyond the physical flesh, directly into the energetic signature you carry. They feel your vibration before they process anything else about you, and what they're sensing is the purity of your soul and the active nature of your mission. When a child chooses to sit beside you in a crowded room, or when a frightened animal approaches you instead of running away, you're receiving confirmation from the most honest judges of spiritual frequency that exist on this planet. This connection is essentially a seal of authenticity, validation from beings who cannot lie about what they perceive because they haven't learned deception yet. And then there are the dreams that feel too real to be mere imagination. You find yourself in cities with architecture you've never seen in this lifetime, speaking languages that your current brain never studied, experiencing emotions tied to events that never happened to your present identity. Sometimes you wake up, and the feeling of déjà vu is so overwhelming that you question whether what's happening right now is actually a repetition of something you've already lived. These aren't fantasies or random neural firings. What you're experiencing is spiritual memory emerging, fragments of past incarnations breaking through the veil that normally separates this life from all the others you've lived. Your soul is attempting to align your present awareness with the accumulated wisdom of countless previous journeys. Behind the scenes of your conscious mind, there's an entire library of experiences trying to download into your current understanding, offering you access to skills, knowledge, and insights that seem to appear from nowhere, but are actually rising from the depths of your eternal existence. Type "I remember more than I should" in the comments if these experiences have been happening with increasing frequency, because the acceleration of these memories signals a specific shift that's preparing you for the next phase of your journey. You walk into a room and instantly know something is off, even when everyone is smiling and pretending everything is fine. Someone tells you a story and your body reacts before your mind can analyze whether their words are true or false. You absorb the heaviness of spaces, the anxiety of crowds, the unspoken grief of strangers standing near you in line. This hypersensitivity that you've probably apologized for your entire life, this trait that made people call you overly dramatic or too intense, is actually one of your most powerful spiritual tools. What's happening is that your energetic system operates like an extremely sophisticated radar, detecting frequencies and vibrations that most people's consciousness is too dense to register. The hidden truth behind this gift is that you were designed to be an instrument of cleansing. When you walk into a heavy room and feel that weight pressing on you, you're not just noticing the energy, you're processing it, transmuting it, lightening it for everyone present. This is exhausting work that rarely gets acknowledged. Because it happens invisibly, but it's transforming the collective field in ways that matter profoundly, even when no one thinks to thank you for it. And this brings us to something you've probably noticed, but never fully understood. You have this strange magnetism for people in crisis. Strangers approach you in parking lots and suddenly start telling you their deepest problems. Colleagues who barely know you break down crying in your presence. Friends call you when they're at their breaking point, often saying they don't know why they called you specifically, they just felt pulled to reach out. This isn't coincidence or bad luck that you keep attracting damaged people. Your vibrational field is literally emitting a frequency that signals safety and healing to souls in distress. It's like you're broadcasting a beacon that says, "Rescue available here," on frequencies only desperate hearts can detect. The impact of this means people often find you precisely when they need you most, regardless of whether you feel ready or equipped to help them. Behind the scenes, your soul is doing the work, while your conscious mind scrambles to figure out what to say or do. Your presence alone provides more healing than your words ever could. Edgar Cayce had deep insight into this type of soul when he described what he called missionaries of love. These aren't people with degrees in theology or positions in religious institutions. They don't carry impressive titles or accumulate public recognition. They live quietly among ordinary people, working regular jobs, navigating daily struggles, appearing completely unremarkable to casual observation. But they touch the world in ways that ripple through eternity. You are one of these missionaries. And the fact that you're still doubting it, still questioning whether you're really making a difference, is actually proof of your authenticity. Your humility runs deeper than your spiritual awareness of your own significance. You don't see yourself as special because you're too busy being of service to step back and recognize the magnitude of what you're offering. This humility is essential to your mission because the moment you become attached to being seen as a healer or teacher or guide, ego enters and distorts the purity of what flows through you. Your doubt protects the integrity of your work. Comment, "I see it now," if you're beginning to recognize that what you thought were weaknesses have actually been your greatest strengths all along. Because the transformation in mindset that happens when you accept this truth unlocks abilities you haven't even begun to access yet. There's this persistent feeling inside you that won't quiet down, a sense that you need to do more, accomplish more, give more. It's not quite guilt, but something deeper, like an internal debt you can't remember taking on, but know you're responsible for paying. You push yourself harder than anyone asks you to. Hold yourself to standards that seem unreasonably high, feel restless, even when you've done everything right. Most people would diagnose this as anxiety or perfectionism, but the hidden truth is far more profound. This isn't a psychological disorder, this is soul memory. Before you incarnated into this lifetime, you stood in the presence of spiritual councils and made promises. You looked at the state of human consciousness and volunteered for specific assignments. You agreed to carry certain frequencies, to be present during particular moments, to serve in ways that your current mind can't fully recall, but your soul absolutely remembers. That internal pressure you feel isn't pathology. It's your higher self reminding you that you signed a contract, And somewhere deep in your being, you know there's work you came here to complete. The journey you're on isn't random wandering. It's the fulfillment of commitments made before time touched you. And here's something that will shift your entire perspective on the loneliness you've experienced. You have never, not for one single moment, been truly alone. From the instant you took your first breath in this body, spiritual mentors have been walking alongside you, invisible but present, silent but active. Every crossroad where you had to make impossible decisions, they were there influencing your intuition, planting ideas that felt like your own thoughts but carried wisdom beyond your years. Every dark night when despair threatened to consume you completely, they whispered hope into your heart, opened unexpected paths forward, sent signs through songs on the radio, through strangers who said exactly what you needed to hear, through circumstances that aligned too perfectly to be coincidence. The problem isn't that they left you, it's that somewhere along the way you stopped listening with the same openness you had as a child. The noise of the world, the trauma, the disappointments, they built walls around your receptivity. But those guides never abandoned. Their posts, they're still there right now, waiting for you to remember how to hear them, to feel their presence, to trust the guidance that arrives in whispers rather than shouts. Behind the scenes of every major decision you've made, there's been invisible hands gently steering you toward your highest path. Now I want to go even deeper into something that will completely reframe how you see your existence. You think you're just one person struggling through life, trying to make sense of your purpose, hoping your choices matter. But the reality is so much bigger than that. You are the answer to prayers that were spoken generations before you were born. Your ancestors, the ones who suffered through wars and famines and losses that broke them, they prayed for healing they knew they wouldn't live to see. They begged the universe to send someone who could break the patterns, who could transform the pain into something beautiful. And the universe answered by sending you, your grandparents. In the spiritual realm, the guides who have worked with your soul across multiple lifetimes, they're not just watching you, they're actively rooting for your success because they understand something you're still learning. Your light, even when it feels dim, even when you think you're failing, is still a torch powerful enough to ignite hope across generations. The impact you're having extends backward and forward through time simultaneously, healing lineages and creating possibilities for souls who haven't even incarnated yet. Right? I'm fulfilling the promise in the comments. If you're feeling the weight and the honor of realizing you're part of something so much larger than your individual life. Because what comes next reveals exactly how to step more fully into this sacred role. Look into your own eyes sometime when you're alone. Really look. There's something ancient there. Something that has witnessed far more than this single lifetime could contain. The sensitivity that moves. Through you isn't some modern spiritual trend or adopted persona. It's a remnant from eras when humanity lived closer to the earth, when hearts were consulted before minds, when the invisible world was treated as just as real as the tangible one. You carry this old knowing in your cells, in the way you pause before speaking to sense the emotional temperature of a room, in how you feel shifts in energy before anything physical changes, in your tendency to stay silent, not because you have nothing to say, but because you're listening to frequencies most people can't detect. This ability to feel before understanding, to know before proof arrives, marks you as someone whose soul remembers a time when this was normal. When everyone operated this way before the world taught people to trust only what could be measured and explained. And this remembering has awakened you to a truth that eludes most of humanity. While countless people are chasing external markers of success, accumulating achievements and possessions as if these things could fill the emptiness inside, you've already moved past that illusion. You understand at a fundamental level that you're not here for personal gain or individual glory. Your mission is far more critical than anything the world would applaud. You're here to help humanity through a massive transition, to be present during one of the most significant shifts in consciousness this planet has ever experienced. This means planting seeds of light in the darkest corners, offering love to people who may never return it, holding steady when everything around you is crumbling. The impact of this work doesn't show up on resumes or bank statements. It registers in dimensions that most people don't acknowledge exist, but it's shaping the future of human evolution in ways that will only become visible generations from now. Now, I want to go even deeper into how you navigate this mission practically, because it requires a level of trust that defies everything modern society teaches. Your intuition has become your most reliable compass, hasn't it? There have been countless times when logic screamed one direction, when every rational person in your life advised a particular course of action, when all the evidence pointed toward a specific decision, but something inside you whispered no. And you've learned, often through painful experience, that following that whisper, honoring that inexplicable knowing, leads you to exactly where you need to be, even when the path makes no sense. That shiver that runs through you when something isn't right, that sudden certainty that arrives without supporting data, that gut feeling you can't justify to anyone including yourself. These are communications from the spiritual plane, direct downloads from guides who can see the bigger picture your limited human perspective cannot access. This connection to higher guidance is what keeps you grounded even when chaos erupts around you. While others panic and scramble for external solutions, you can tap into an internal stability that comes from knowing you're being directed by forces far wiser than your individual mind. The transformation that happens when you fully trust this inner compass changes every aspect of how you move through life. Comment, "I trust what I feel," if you've reached the point where you honor your intuition even when you can't explain it to others, because the revelations about how to strengthen and clarify this connection are about to become incredibly practical and immediately useful. There's a sacred space inside you that exists beyond the noise of daily life, beyond the demands and distractions, beyond even your own racing thoughts. Edgar Cayce called it the inner temple, and once you learn to access it, everything changes. This isn't a metaphor or poetic language. There is an actual dimensional space within your consciousness where profound silence lives, and in that silence, your spiritual mentors communicate without needing words. When you retreat there, even for moments, you find consolation that no human conversation could provide, direction that clarifies impossible decisions, courage that rises from a source deeper than personal willpower. The people who have discovered this internal sanctuary carry a particular kind of unshakable peace. The world can be falling apart around them, crises erupting on every side, and yet they remain centered because they know how to drop into that temple where eternal truths dwell. They understand that everything happening on the surface is temporary, that storms pass, that what seems catastrophic today will eventually transform into something else. This inner knowing doesn't come from positive thinking or denial of reality. It comes from direct connection to the timeless perspective that lives in that sacred internal space. And here's something beautiful that often goes unrecognized. Not everyone prays on their knees with folded hands and rehearsed words. Some souls pray through their actions, turning daily service into a living conversation with the divine. When you care for your aging parents with patience, even when exhaustion threatens to break you, that's prayer. When you tend to your children's needs with presence, even when your own needs are screaming for attention, that's prayer. When you feed the stray animals in your neighborhood, comfort a friend going through crisis, show up for people who can't repay you, all of this is worship in its purest form. The hidden truth behind this kind of spirituality is that it doesn't require an audience or acknowledgement to be valid. Love that demands no applause, service that expects no recognition, care that flows freely without calculation of return. This is among the noblest expressions of an awakened soul. Behind the scenes of what looks like ordinary kindness, you're actually engaging in profound spiritual practice that accumulates significance across lifetimes. Now, I want to go even deeper into something that probably still hurts when you think about it. There were dreams you held so tightly, visions of what your life was supposed to look like, doors you desperately wanted to open that slammed shut in your face. Maybe it was a relationship you were certain was meant to be. Maybe it was a career path that seemed perfect but never materialized. Maybe it was a move to a different city, a creative project, an opportunity that vanished at the last moment. You've probably spent time wondering what you did wrong, questioning if you weren't worthy, feeling like you failed somehow. But here's the revelation that changes everything about how you see those closed doors. They weren't rejections. They were protection. The greater intelligence guiding your life could see what you couldn't, that the thing you wanted so desperately would have eventually become a prison, limiting your growth, pulling you away from your true purpose, dimming the light you came here to share. In the void left by those disappointments, a new route was being traced, one far more aligned with why your soul chose this particular incarnation. The impact of understanding this transforms disappointment into gratitude, because you begin to trust that what doesn't work out is making space for what's supposed to unfold. Type "the no was protection" in the comments if you're starting to see your past rejections and closed doors as divine intervention rather than personal failure, because recognizing this pattern reveals something crucial about the precision with which your life is being orchestrated toward your highest calling. You carry scars that no one can see, wounds that healed in private without witnesses or sympathy. There are stories etched into your soul that you've never spoken aloud, experiences so profound or painful that you've only shared them with the heavens in whispered prayers during your darkest nights. These invisible marks aren't signs of damage. They're soul signatures, proof of battles fought and survived, evidence of a life lived with depth that most people will never comprehend. Each scar represents a moment when you could have hardened completely, could have closed your heart forever, could have chosen bitterness over growth. But you didn't. You walked through fire and somehow managed to remain soft where it mattered, to keep your capacity for love intact, even when love had wounded you. The hidden truth behind these scars is that they've made you capable of holding space for others in their pain, of understanding suffering without needing it explained, of offering comfort that comes from lived experience rather than theoretical compassion. And through everything you've endured, through every loss that should have destroyed you, one thing remained unshakable. There were moments when you lost relationships, money, health, certainty about the future. Almost everything tangible was stripped away. But faith stayed. Not the kind of faith that requires church attendance or recited creeds, but something far more elemental. This is soul faith, the kind Edgar Cayce described as an inner knowing that persists even when circumstances provide zero evidence to support it. It's what kept you taking steps forward when you couldn't see where you were going. It's what helped you rise after falls that should have kept you down permanently. It's what allowed you to sing, even metaphorically, when your throat was tight with grief and your heart was shattered. This faith exists because your soul has already seen beyond the veil, has already witnessed the invisible machinery of the universe, has already experienced proof that consciousness continues beyond physical death. You can't unsee what you've seen across lifetimes, and that ancient knowing sustains you through present darkness. Now I want to go even deeper into the impact you have simply by existing in spaces. There's a particular quality that certain souls possess that has nothing to do with physical attractiveness or charismatic personality. It's presence. You walk into a room where tension is thick, and almost immediately the atmosphere begins to shift. People don't consciously realize what's happening, but they start breathing a little easier, speaking a little softer, dropping their defensive postures. This isn't something you do through effort or technique. It's your energetic nature automatically bringing peace where there was discord. Your energy field acts as a cleanser, neutralizing heavy vibrations. Your words, even casual conversation, carry a frequency that calms nervous systems. You are what could be called a silent healer, someone who repairs the wounded world not through dramatic interventions, but through the steady, consistent radiation of a higher vibration. Behind the scenes of everyday interactions, you're performing medicine that no hospital offers and healing that no degree can teach. And here's what all of this has been building toward. Right now, in this very moment of your life, something is shifting. The confusion that plagued you for years is beginning to clarify. Pieces of your journey that seemed random or meaningless are suddenly fitting together into a coherent pattern. Signs you dismissed are becoming impossible to ignore. The calling that you felt but couldn't quite articulate is intensifying to the point where you can no longer pretend you don't hear it. This is your time of awakening, the moment when your soul stops waiting for permission and starts demanding that you live what you came here to live. The greater plan that has been orchestrating your entire existence is watching with love, not judgment, simply waiting for you to recognize the magnificent scope of what you're capable of becoming and the transformation you're meant to facilitate. Write, "I'm ready now," in the comments if you feel something inside you clicking into place, a readiness emerging that wasn't there before. Because what comes next is about taking everything you've learned and finally stepping fully into the role you were born to play. If you've made it all the way here, I want you to know something. That wasn't an accident. Out of all the videos you could be watching right now, out of all the distractions competing for your attention, you stayed. That tells me your soul recognized something true in these words, something it needed to hear. If this message resonated with you, if parts of it felt like they were written specifically for your journey, leave a comment below and simply write, "This message was meant for me." I read every single comment, and there's something powerful about declaring your awakening publicly, about letting the universe know you're ready to step into what's calling you. And if you found value in what we explored together today, I'd be grateful if you'd hit that like button. It's a small gesture, but it helps this content reach other souls who are searching for these answers, other people born between 1955 and 1975 who need to remember who they really are and why they're here. If you haven't already, make sure you subscribe to the channel because we're going deep into these spiritual truths regularly. This isn't superficial content, this is soul work, and if you're on this path, you'll want to continue this journey with us. There's a video right here that goes even deeper into understanding your spiritual gifts and how to fully activate them in your daily life. Click and continue with me over there. Your awakening is just beginning, and I'll be right here walking alongside you. Until we meet again, remember, your light matters more than you know.